Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to all of the colleagues who have joined us today across the Asia-Pacific region and also beyond the region. And welcome to this Stats Café session on leveraging administrative data for inclusive and high-quality official statistics tools from the Collaborative on Administrative Data that we call it CAD. I am Afsane Yazani and I'm a statistician with ESCAP Statistics Division, and I have the pleasure of moderating the session today. As many of you already know, that administrative data, which is initially collected by government agencies and service providers for their administrative purposes, has become a key data source for producing official statistics. Using administrative data enhances the cost efficiency of producing official statistics, and it enables more timely, frequent, and granular statistics at a lower cost and with reduced burden on respondents. However, if you want to unlock this potential, it is not always easy, and there are challenges in fully utilizing these data sources. The challenges include accessing the data, coordination with data holders, addressing quality issues, handling legal and privacy concerns, and linking data across the systems, among others. Actually, these are just the key ones I mentioned here. Recognizing these challenges, the Collaborative on Administrative Data, CAD, was established. CAD is a joint initiative by United Nations Statistics Division, the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development Data, and UN Women. Since its establishment, CAD has worked with countries to co-develop practical tools to support national statistical systems in overcoming the challenges in using administrative data, from advocating for its use for statistical purposes to assessing quality and linking different data sources and mapping data. Today's session will introduce these tools and showcase country experiences in applying them. We will hear from experts and hope that those tools and experiences could be beneficial to other colleagues participating in this session. I encourage everyone to actively engage, and if you have any questions or comments, please post them in the chat, and we will have time for Q&A and discussion at the end. I would also like to ask all colleagues to mute your microphone when you are not speaking, so we can avoid the background noise. The agenda of session today is that we start with the overview and setting the scene by Isabella Schmidt. She is a regional gender statistics specialist, UN Women, East and Southern Africa. Sorry, may I ask you to mute your microphone, please, colleague? Okay, thank you. And then we will have Sylvia Maina, who will introduce advocacy toolkit. I'm not sure if Sylvia, have you joined us or not? Anyway, so then we will hear Maldives experience using mapping tool. The presentation will be by Aishat Shahuta, Deputy Chief Statistician of Maldives Bureau of Statistics. We will hear about the Quality Assessment Toolkit, a presentation by Silja Emel, Senior Advisor Statistics Norway. And then we will hear about Mongolia experience and the using Quality Toolkit in practice by Oyun Bilek Delgersayhan. Sorry if I don't pronounce your name correctly, Director of Data Research and Analysis Division of the NSO Mongolia. And at the end, we will have the linking toolkit that Isabella will introduce to us again. And we will also have time for Q&A and discussion at the end of the session. So Now I give the floor to Isabel Schmidt to start with the presentation. Over to you, Isabel. Please take the control. Perfect. You are on mute, Isabella.
Good morning, everyone. Very pleased to share with you today the resources that were developed by the Collaborative on Administrative Data. We hope that some of this will be useful to you as you continue to strengthen your administrative data system so that you can use it for statistical purposes. So without much further ado, I'm going to continue with the presentation. Today, I'm going to share with you how the CAD network works and give you a broad overview of all the tools we've developed. I'm also briefly going to tell you about the e-learning course that the Collaborative developed, a legal framework tool, and then much later, towards the end of the session today, I'll talk to the data linking toolkit. So how do we work as the Collaborative? As Vanessa said already, we are co-led by UN Statistical Division, UN Women, and also the Global Partnership on Sustainable Development. And currently, we are organized around 3 task teams, and each of these task teams have a very specific brief, and the members of the task teams provide inputs into the work of each of the task teams. And many of you in the room are actually members of the Collaborative and actively participate. So each year we work with members of the Collaborative where we can get their ideas and inputs on what should be in our program and what the kind of tools are that will be useful to them. So the task teams, as I indicated, are organized around specific work areas, and we also will, close a task team once they finish the work that they need to do and perhaps start a new task team if the needs from our members require a different focus area. So currently we have 3 task teams. The first one is dealing with institutional frameworks, coordination and partnership. Second task team, look at data management and standardization. Finally, we also have a task team that look at technical interoperability and linking. And this task team 3 deals a lot more with the IT infrastructure and the back end of administrative data systems. So our members, they share experiences and expertise. They collaborate and sometimes lead webinars. Our co-leads basically organize and lead the overall work of the Collaborative on Administrative Data and also contribute financial and other resources to make the work of the Collaborative possible. So I'm quickly going to share with you the different CAD tools that we have, and they are at the moment pretty much organized in a sequential manner. When we think about starting using administrative data for statistical purposes, we need to have a general set of skills, and this e-learning course, which I'll talk to a little bit more in more detail later on, is very well situated for that. It's self-paced, and its whole objective is to show in an interactive way how one can move from administrative data for administrative purposes to administrative data for statistical purposes. Then advocacy, we have an advocacy toolkit which help us position administrative data strategically within our governments. Quite often there's resistance from the holders of administrative data to share the data for administrative purposes, and the toolkit will help give you some ideas as to how you can overcome this resistance. Then we also have a legal framework tool and a memorandum of understanding toolkit, and I think those are very useful for you if you are currently reforming your Statistics Act. The tools will help see where you need to modify your Statistics Act to give the National Statistical Offices the powers they need to use administrative data for statistical purposes. Then we have IT architecture, guidance and template. We have a data quality toolkit. Sylvia will present a little bit later on that in more detail. And finally, also a data linking toolkit. So here you'll get the presentations from Asfane, but here are links to all these tools that I spoke about now. And we are currently finalizing the metadata guidance. The data linking toolkit is finished, but not published on the web yet. So let me quickly talk to the deep dive series. We have a deep dive series, which is a webinar series aimed at focusing in one session of about an hour and a half on best practices in one national statistical office. And in 2025, we've already had 3 webinars on data quality systems. So there's a deep dive series on data quality systems. And there's also a deep dive series on IT infrastructure needed to support admin data systems. This second deep dive series starts in this year, but will continue in 2026. And then in 2026, we will devote our quarterly deep dive webinars to showcasing register-based censuses best practices. So encouraging you to join those. They are widely advertised when we hold them. So I'm going to briefly touch on the e-learning course. It's as I say, interactive. Here is the QR code that you can use to activate the course. It is, user-friendly, intuitive, and consists of 6 modules. First module on key concepts, benefits, collaboration between NSOs and data holders. The second module deals with mapping, and you'll learn a little bit more about mapping in the subsequent sessions this morning. The mapping tool, and then also, of course, quality assessment of admin data. Module 3 is quality management. Module 4 looks at metadata and the harmonization of concepts, definitions, and the feedback loop. And module 5 looks at data sharing arrangements and formalities. Module 6 then looks at data interoperability, confidentiality, and data security. So it's quite a comprehensive course. Currently, it's on the web, available in English. The French version will be placed on the web in the coming weeks. And we are also working on a Spanish version, which will be available in 2026. So this is just a few screenshots so that you can see what it looks like. So also briefly going to share with you the statistical legal framework and self-assessment tool. So as I say, this tool is very useful if you're busy currently reforming your Statistics Act in your country. It's through a set of interactive questions that you can assess the extent to which your Statistics Act currently adequately provides for work on administrative data systems from a statistical perspective. It's very user-friendly and would encourage you to take a look at that if you are busy with that at the moment. So with this, I'm going to now hand over to my colleague Sylvia Maina, who will share with you some more details of the advocacy toolkit that the Collaborative and Administrative Data developed. Thank you. Over to you, Sylvia.
Sylvia?
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, it's a little bit of echo, but yeah, we can hear you. If you have a headset, it can help.
Yes, actually, I'm using a headphone.
Okay.
Just a minute. Okay, is that any better?
Yeah, please continue. And if you want to move the slides, you can tell us to move for you.
Okay, actually, yes, please do move the slides for me if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon again, everyone. A real pleasure to be here. Thank you, Isabella, for that segue. My name is Sylvia Maina. I work with Isabella at the UN Eastern Southern Africa Regional Office, where I manage communications for gender statistics. So today I'd like to take you through the advocacy toolkit. I'm not sure if you have my slides yet. If you could kindly put them up. So I see the cover page. Yes, great. Thank you so much. So just quickly, this is just to give you an idea of what to expect. So this is a truncated version of this fuller presentation so that I can manage the time just in the interest of time. So we'll be looking very, very briefly at administrative data. Of course, most of us in the room are experts on what administrative data is. If you could kindly go to the subsequent slide that had the table of contents, please. Oh, I think the presentation is different.
Sorry, I think that some other colleague has taken the control now.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Sorry, colleagues. Please do not take the control of the slides because the presenter is taking. Okay. I can move for you. I'm sorry, I don't know what
No
happened.
problem.
So
No problem.
just a second. I find
Okay.
the advocacy.
Okay,
We
sure.
have the learning. Okay. So is it your slide or shall
Yes,
we move to the
yes,
next
that's
one?
the one. That's the one.
Or
Excellent. Thank you so much.
okay. You're
Yes, so of course, all of us in the room are experts at administrative data. So we'll just be taking a very quick look at that, just to give the context in the sense of advocacy for administrative data use for statistical purposes. Then we'll get into a quick definition of advocacy and what really this means in this particular context. Um, then we'll look at some of the techniques that are required in advocating for the use of administrative data for statistical purposes. And the first one of this is basically identifying and mapping the actors, followed by developing messages for advocacy, which is very important. So message development or message crafting, and then identifying entry points. Basically, when is the best time to undertake this kind of advocacy for the use of admin data for statistical purposes. And each of these will have just a quick sample where you can look at it briefly, but you can look at it in depth in your own time as well, even as you engage with the wider presentation, the full version of this. So then we'll also be looking at gender data gaps in your country that administrative data can help to fill. So this again is just for you to do on your own time. It's some sort of peer-to-peer learning and for reflection. So that's how I've titled them. And then we'll conclude with the rest of the samples, like I said, the practice. The practice, we won't actually get time to do it today, but it'll give you an idea of the kind of practice that you can do just to apprise yourself on advocacy for admin data. Next slide, please. All right, so advocacy in the context of promoting administrative data. So of course, we are familiar with what administrative data is, and basically the kind of data that businesses and public sector agencies and others develop or put together in the course of their day-to-day work or in the day-to-day business. Private sector also does the same, as we are well aware. So when we're looking at advocating for the promotion of administrative data for statistical purposes, it's important for us to really have an in-depth understanding of what administrative data can do for gender statistic systems. So that's why we are advocating for its use. We know that it fills gaps in terms of data that's needed in a timely fashion, especially data such as GBV data. I think that's the most common the most common one we are used to as far as administrative data goes, especially for gender data. We know that it's timely, we know that it's cost effective, but we also need complementary data. So we're not saying admin data, of course, takes over all statistics, but basically it's complementary data that fills in these gaps and helps us to get a real picture on the ground at the time. So when we look at advocating for the use of administrative data for statistical purposes, you can see from the slide some of the emphasis that I've put is on it's a deliberate process. And you can also say it's a strategic process. So it means that it has been designed in a particular way. There's a plan around it, there's a strategy around it. It's not ad hoc. So advocacy must always be backed by a strategy and then implemented through a plan. And what is it really about? It's about the process. Yeah, again, even that word process can be emphasized of influencing policies, practices, and decision making, right? And even influencing institutions and also for influence among key stakeholders. Then when we are taking up advocacy for administrative data for statistical purposes, what we're also looking at is demonstrating the value of administrative data for statistical production and in statistical systems. So some of those values are the things that I talked about: the timeliness, the cost effectiveness, and also just plugging in the gaps. And then when we're advocating for the use of administrative data, we're encouraging support from higher levels of government. So we really want all the stakeholders in the national statistical systems or in the national statistical systems to really be able to understand and appreciate and also be on board, right? To buy in, yeah, to the value of administrative data and what it can do in an NSS. Then even as part of advocacy, we also look at what are the barriers to its use, to the use of administrative data for statistical purposes. And some of these barriers, I think we all know too well. It's maybe lack of understanding, lack of appreciation for it, lack of technical expertise. Maybe the legal and policy frameworks don't support the use of this data. So those are just some of the barriers. So even as you undertake an advocacy campaign, these barriers must be examined and understood, and then they must be communicated around so that you can overcome those barriers. I want to jump to the last bullet here. So apart from promoting collaboration, we also wanted to inspire stakeholders to shape policies and practices using this administrative data. Next slide, please. And please do let me know if I go too fast. So just as part of a reflection on advocacy, quick look, it's really, so we want to emphasize again the fact about the need for strategy, but also the need for tactics. So strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory, because you may have a strategy, but we all know a strategy is high level and doesn't get down into the actual operations or doing of the strategy or doing of the steps and processes that you want to execute the strategy. So strategy is good, but it's not enough on its own. What we need are tactics, because tactics without strategy also are the road to nowhere. And basically, it's a noise before defeat. So you can do a lot of tactics, operations, doing things on the ground, a lot of activities. That's really where tactics fall at activity stage. But you're not going towards a common goal, which is essentially the strategy. So just to reiterate that for advocacy, a strategy is just as important as the tactics. And advocacy, I'm not sure what comes to mind when we hear the word advocacy, but for a lot of non-communications persons or a lot of people who are not involved in advocacy directly, the sense often is that advocacy is really about making noise, if I can put it that way, or amplifying a message, or quote unquote shouting, right? Shouting about something in particular or expressing displeasure. But advocacy goes beyond that. Yeah, it's strategic communication that is actually targeted at fostering an environment that's conducive to policy changes. Yeah, so really that's a definition I would love us to go away with. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this gives you an idea of the first of the three techniques that I talked about. Remember, I talked about one of the techniques is mapping key actors, and also we talked about messaging and also timeliness, or the strategy of how will you decide which point is the most strategic for bringing up your advocacy campaign. So time is also an issue. So looking quickly at the mapping of key actors, you can see here this pyramid kind of tries to break them down. Yeah, and it shows that the most powerful are at the top of the pyramid, and these are the ones who can influence a yes or a no. But you can see they're also the smallest in number, but they're very important, right? They cannot be disregarded just because they are few in number. And you can see the base of the pyramid is really individuals and stakeholders who are already convinced, and also those who are skeptical, and also those who are neutral and are ready to be convinced or dissuaded either way, right? So all these stakeholders are critical. And we look at how when we want to undertake an advocacy campaign, a general advocacy campaign, but also an advocacy campaign to promote the use of administrative data for statistical purposes, as is the focus in this case, we need to identify who these target audiences are. So you can see the pyramid already does a little bit of that. In different contexts and for different purposes, you'll find the stakeholders may vary, or the target audiences may vary. Yeah, so you may find your primary audience may not be the primary audience in a different context or in a different advocacy campaign still for administrative data. But you can see that even as we identify these target audiences, we need to build awareness, we need to generate support, yeah, and we also need to mobilize resources. I think this is a really important point that many often don't associate with advocacy, because I think advocacy and communications efforts are often regarded as money spenders, right, in institutions and in sectors rather than money makers. But they're actually both. Yes, we are very good at spending money, but we also bring attention to issues which can actually draw resources to those particular issues. Next slide, please. So this is a sample map of key actors, like I promised. So once you've done your in-depth stakeholder analysis, of course, like I keep saying, this is just an extract of a wider presentation, which you will have available to you after this session. You can see how we've mapped out the stakeholders going by primary, secondary, and tertiary as well. And just this gives you a good idea of how to look at the different stakeholders and to understand what particular roles they play. So this particular example that's been given is one that's related to education data. So that's another very good area where GBV, where administrative data is very crucial, because you can imagine the amount of data that schools and other learning institutions have at their disposal, and by extension, then also the Ministry of Education has this data, and it can really inform policy in a very good and meaningful way. So you can look at that in detail in your own time. But you can see in general, stakeholder maps can show how impacted or involved or not involved people are in achieving the desired outcome. Yeah, so there are different ways of going about this. There are other samples you'll find in the broader presentation where you do the matrix. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the matrix that's divided in four, where you basically have, like perhaps on the top right, you have the ones with the lowest impact, and then on the bottom right, you have the ones with the lowest interest, and then conversely on the left, bottom left, you have those with the highest interest, and top left, you have those with the highest impact. So that's another way of mapping out your stakeholders. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. So on the second technique, looking at messaging or crafting advocacy messages. So criteria for effective messages. It's critical that we understand what a good message looks like and what a poor message also looks like, right? And this takes quite a bit of expertise and also a good analysis and understanding of the sector that you're working in, which I believe all of us have that expertise in our respective sectors. So once you understand the stakeholders, you need to target the various messages to specifically speak to them, because as we know, audiences are not homogeneous, right? So some have a high level of knowledge, some have a low level of knowledge, and vice versa, and high level of interest and low level of interest as well. So you need to cover all these stakeholders in your different advocacy efforts. So one, you need to communicate, the message should communicate the benefits, right, of sharing and also of using administrative data. So in the example that I gave earlier of the Ministry of Education, when you look at sharing, you would want maybe the Ministry of Education to share their data with different policymakers and other stakeholders who can have an impact on the education sector. And when you're looking at gender data, from a perspective of benefiting girls and women in education. But you also want to communicate the benefits of using this administrative data to those who have been given access to it. So a good message, a good advocacy message should encompass those two elements, promoting the strategy and also the use of administrative data. And then messages can address the concerns. Remember earlier I talked about barriers. So we can also have messages that look at the barriers that the different stakeholders experience as far as accessing and using and also sharing administrative data, because you may find, again, like we said, there may be some legal or my apologies, I dropped the gadget. Yeah, so I hope you can still hear me well. Yeah, so you also want to address the barriers of those you want to address the barriers of those particular stakeholders as far as maybe policy constraints or legal constraints that come in as far as sharing that administrative data, because you want to understand why is the data not being shared and how can you ensure that there's a better move towards sharing that data. And then you also want to look at how you can bring on board those particular stakeholders who are against the initiative. Like I said, there are those who are always for, those who are neutral, and those who are against. So you want to make sure that you address their respective needs very well so that they're left with no question and therefore there's buy-in for your initiative. You can press the next, please. There's a graphic that I want to come up. Thank you. Yeah, so your messages should be clear and simple. These are some of the criteria for advocacy messages, and they need to be clear and simple so that they properly reach your audience. The audience doesn't need to receive the message and try and understand what does this mean or how does this relate to me. It needs to not be confusing. And the simpler it is, therefore, the more clear it will be. But even as much as administrative data is quite a technical concept, even for statisticians, I know many of us are still learning a lot about administrative data and its uses. It's still possible, as technical and high level as administrative data can be, it's still possible to actually simplify the messages and percolate them to a level that's understandable by a wider audience as well as by specialists. Then it needs to be relevant, like what is happening in that particular context, and is it speaking to the issue well? And then also the arguments need to be evidence-based. This is really important. And I think for all of us in the room, I think none of us can understate this. We are all sold into the power of data in making a case for or against something. So even in advocacy, we really tap very heavily into evidence-based arguments to ensure that the message is accurate, but also that the message is strong and stands up against any counter views that it may experience. It also needs to have a call to action. A good message must have a call to action, because once someone reads and understands the message, or hears and understands the message, or engages with it in whatever form or shape, whether it's a multimedia message or any other format, they need to be able to answer the question, so what? So what do you want me to do? What is required of me after I've read this message, or what is required of me now that I've understood and I want to support? How do I support? And without the call to action, really the message is just news or information. It's really not a campaign or an advocacy of bringing people on board. So that is critical. Then there's also the emotional appeal. Yeah. It needs to speak not only to the mind, because the evidence-based arguments really appeal to logic, but we also want it to appeal to the good senses of the person. So it can also have a moral element and other emotional appeal. Next slide, please. So on the next slide, you're going to see a sample message. So you'll find some more detailed ones in the other extended presentation, like I mentioned. So I don't know if you agree that this particular message ticks all those boxes of being clear and simple, being evidence-based, speaking to the emotional appeal. Now I'm forgetting the other two criteria, but I think, relevant. I think you can agree that if you put out a data point like this or an advocacy message like this, saying 63% of the 54 gender-specific SDG indicators in East and Southern Africa can be derived from administrative sources. Already that is quite a strong message, yeah? But you need to say that these messages, these sources are also relatively more cost-effective, because this is not the point you're making. Why should we use administrative data than other data sources? So even to strengthen this message further, we would put in the call to action. That's the other criteria that I was getting from the previous slide. The call to action here could be share your administrative data. It could be as simple as that, or use administrative data for better policy making. That's another very simple call to action. And this particular data point, I just wanted to emphasize this from this publication, which I've put the cover page there and the link as well. You can go and take a look at it. Next slide. I think I just have a couple slides more to go. I hope I'm doing okay for time.
You have one more, and if you could do a little bit quicker.
Okay, all right, great. Thanks for that feedback. So the third technique that I talked about was strategic entry point. Yeah, so when is the best time to bring up an advocacy campaign? When is the best time to start making your case for the use of administrative data for policy making or for strategic purpose, for statistical purposes? So I want to focus on the elements on the right. So when there are national plans and strategies being made, this is a really good time to plug in and say, administrative data can speak to this need, can speak to that question, can plug this gap. When there are topics of high national importance, for example, we've seen a big femicide wave across East and Southern Africa in many of the countries, and even globally, actually, especially post-COVID. So if this is a topic of high national importance in your country or political importance, it's very critical at this point to advocate for the use of administrative data at this point. There's also when countries are reporting or looking back on international ambitions and obligations, or going forward to make international obligations. And we're looking at Agenda 2030, treaties on human rights, etc. This is also a good time to reflect using administrative data and ensuring that you make the case for why is administrative good. So basically, it's about how opportunistic, quote unquote, can you be to ensure that the point is driven home. Because if you catch it at the most strategic entry point, then you have a much stronger case of your campaign succeeding. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is just to show you where all this information and more is. So you can go to the full toolkit, and there's also a summary version, which I've also provided links for there. And you can get all the whats, the hows, the whys, and the whens of advocating for the use of administrative data for statistical purposes. Next slide, please. And here is our list of resources and tools for further reading. And with that, I'd like to just say thank you for your time, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. Yeah, advocacy is really important for using admin data, both to convince the admin data holders to share their data and see some benefits for them, and also for the public to resolve the privacy concerns and other things. So now we move to our next speaker, Aishat Shahuda, to talk about Maldives experience using mapping tool. Over to you, Shahuda. And yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Afsani. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. And I think you
Okay.
took also the control, so you
Control,
can
yeah.
move. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'll just talk about the quality assessment tool for administrative data that we have experimented in the Maldives. So there is in the context of our country, we have this national strategy for development of statistics. That's our long-term strategy till 2030, and we have like in our objectives and in our mandates that we need to work in developing coming up with a national quality assurance framework for the national statistical system, and we are to support the other agencies to deploy this quality assurance framework. And as we all know about the importance and the availability of many of the administrative data sources in most of the agencies. So we have this need to assess and address the data availability and quality issues, and to improve the quality of the administrative data for our statistical purposes. So in this regard, the mapping tool is very useful because it is designed to help NSOs and other stakeholders to try and identify as well as document the existing administrative data sources within the national statistical system. Sometimes there are many data sources that we are even not aware of that is existing in different agencies, as well as their content. So this using this tool, it helps us to assess and address the identify the data sets and address these issues, as well as to try and improve the quality of the administrative data that we can see how much we can use it for statistical purposes. So as an initial step in the MBS, we try to implement a quality assessment tool. It was at the time being tested by UNST, so we had this opportunity to see how much it is applicable or aligned to the context of the Maldives. Then, so in this regard, if I would like to just highlight a little bit on the process that we used. We had this workshop. That's we have a National Statistics Coordinating Committee, and so many of the people were invited to for a workshop which was conducted in the country, as you can see. So during this workshop, in addition to informing them about what administrative data is, how it is important, I mean, the toolkit was also introduced. So we got to play with the toolkit and then try to fill it during that workshop and experiment it. But later on, we send it to like requested targeted agencies, and then they took some time to complete the questionnaire. And during the process, we worked together with them to clarify some issues, and then later it was submitted to the MBS after they completed this. So if you look at the mapping tool, it's an Excel-based tool, a questionnaire, and we have this administrative data, what the data source is, which institution own and manages these data sources, what types of data are collected, the level of data quality and accessibility, and how these data are used for statistical purposes. So there are different areas in the mapping questionnaire, starting from like how they have the challenges, the data sharing aspect, validation, and also other relevant aspects that the challenges they are facing. So this is an example of the questionnaire that we completed for 2 agencies. So it starts with the basics part about like what is the administrative data source. So these are the 2 data sources we completed in this one. I'm just showing as an example. So which department or ministry is the data holder, then the contact details, then we have some information in the questionnaire on the register. So the target population in the administrative data sources, like some one is for the Maldivian population, then other is the foreign workers in the country. So is the register based or survey based, and then the unique identifier, whether it is existing, the variables that are included in the register, like these are also very important to know how much we can use, and whether there are any missing variables that like they are aware of, and then what is the earliest time that this administrative data source goes back to. So this is just the basic part. Then we have information in the questionnaire about the data entry, like how it is whether it is electronic or like digital, with the data digitally available, how frequently they update it, the data is at whether it is an individual level or aggregate level, then about the data sharing, whether they have MOUs, how frequently the data is shared with other institutions, what format the data is received, and then there's this part on the data validation and how the data is validated. It's like, in this case, like they are cross-matching with the data from the Department of National Registration. So sometimes it's more manual. So this is the other part, the usage of the register. It's like what is it is used for, the challenges that they are aware of. Then whether there are any human capacity gaps related to managing and analyzing data, and then other relevant data for the whole sector. So these are the areas, and also something about the general challenges and the questions. So like they can identify the issues like interoperability, standardization, IT infrastructure, like skills. So this is how the questionnaire is structured, and then it can be filled. Uh, so in our case, we did this work with part of the project that we had with the collaborative. We are one of the pilot countries with the focus on the migration and employment. So in the case of Maldives, before we start completing the questionnaire, we had some engagement with the users, with the data providers. So to get the buy-in, we had the high-level meeting with the officials of the relevant agencies. Then sometimes for the relevant agencies, one-to-one meetings with the ministers were also held during the mission we had, and then the stakeholder workshop, which is also very important. Then online course was also developed on this aspect, and all the agencies we all followed this course, so they are aware of what the concepts are, and then how important it is that these concepts are reflected in the administrative data that we will be transforming for the statistical use. Then there was a training workshop that we held after that. So this whole process was very important, together with the completing the questionnaire and continuing the whole process. So because we already engaged and we completed this questionnaire, like it helped us to continuously work with the partners and work on improving the administrative data. So and with that, we are also now working with the ESCAP on improving the tools that they have, and on the register-based census, and tried to develop a long-term roadmap for the improvement of administrative data. So all in all, it was like very important in the case to trial this questionnaire and the whole process we had with the trainings and to get the buy-in from the agencies. So that's overall like our experience in with this questionnaire. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shahuda, for sharing the experience and how Maldives used the mapping tool to identify the data sources relevant to employment and migration mainly, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And colleagues, if you have questions for the speakers, please post them in the chat box. We will discuss at the end of the session, and just make sure that you won't forget your questions. Just type them in the chat. Our next speaker is Celia, who will present on quality assessment toolkit. Celia, the floor is yours, and please take the control.
Thank you, Astane. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, and you took the control.
Okay, great. Just
Over to you.
yes, and I took the control.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yes, good afternoon and yes, or good evening. I don't know where in the Asia-Pacific region you are. And thank you so much for inviting me. This is still, yes, so this is mine. My name is Celia Emmel, and I'm currently a senior advisor at Statistics Norway, but I think, yeah, maybe it's important to say that the work I'm presenting, I did while being a consultant for UN Women, and then I think also for UNSD, supporting the collaborative. So that's why this is also not branded in Statistics Norway colors. Yes, and I'll be speaking about the quality assessment tool from the Collaborative on Administrative Data. And maybe it was quite nice to hear already from the Maldives a bit of this is part of the whole toolkit. I'll present a different tool of the quality toolkit. Just to see how this goes in practice. What I want to start with is to say a bit about the tool. So since the start of the collaborative, members have been asking for practical guidance and for some kind of tool that can help to assess the data sources, the administrative data sources in a more structured way. So there's been quite a lot of demand from many members of the collaborative. And then when we started developing it, it turned out to be a set of questions to help to gain a better and a more thorough understanding of the administrative data sources in question. And the idea with the tool is that it's ideally not only for the NSO, but that it's completed in very close collaboration between the NSO and the data holder that has the data source in question. And it's also important to say that it's meant to inspire and provide a starting point for countries that have no quality assurance system in place. And it's not a rigid and this is the way kind of tool. It's more a template that we thought can be useful for countries to take and adjust to national contexts. Also change it if it's needed in the country's context. And originally, like the first version of it was following the data life cycle from collection to dissemination. And since then, I'll speak a little bit about it in the following slides. There's been some changes to the structure, but I'll speak about that soon. Yes, so I included this one just to showcase how we started out. That basically the set of questions that we developed try to capture creation errors, but also errors that can occur when you manipulate or process the data and then when you analyze it and report. And the tool looks like this. I hope you can see it. It's a bit small, but the idea is that it's built up in different tabs in Excel, and you can go through the questions. Maybe first familiarize yourself as the one administering the tool, and then in a conversation with the data holder. So basically, is there a legal framework? And then you can say, okay, yes, no, or maybe. And ideally, we try to include colors to make it quite easy to see if there's compliance or which areas need a bit more work. And there is no score in this tool. It's really just to give a good overview of what the situation is and where the main areas of improvement are. Yes, I have these just to highlight that it's the different. And then, of course, sorry, there's a box in front of my screen, so I cannot see all of it. But it's basically in the first version following the data lifecycle, like in the picture I showed before, where it goes from the institutional framework to the processing, statistical output, and so on. And then there are some instructions in the beginning. And then, as many of you might have been aware, there's been some work in the UN ENCAF group on administrative data that's been going on over the last 2 years. And a subgroup was established in 23, and then it was co-chaired by UNSD Canada and Namibia, and a sub-module on quality assurance was developed, and it was presented at the last Statistical Commission and welcomed. And because we know that this is important work and a lot of countries follow it, we tried to accommodate that, or like adjust our tool and provide a second version that includes the work of that subgroup and aligns the structure with the structure of the work of the subgroup, so that there isn't so much confusion for those countries that are interested in carrying out the work that way. And there you can see that the main changes are that I think a lot of the questions remained the same, but they have been structured in a different way, and the tabs. So there are, oh, that was one too many. There are more different smaller areas that the questions are divided in, which could have the advantage that it's not so overwhelming if you have 30 questions in one block, and instead it's maybe just 10 or 15. But the idea with all of this is, as I said in the very beginning, just to provide a template and the starting point for countries that are interested in this, and also to adjust it. If you say you want to start carrying out or to start assessing an administrative data source, that you look at maybe both versions, see what is most intuitive for you, and also if there are blocks of questions that you think are not relevant in your country, maybe consider removing them. Yes, I also have a little bit on application experiences. Through the development, we've tried to do quite a bit of country testing. Sahuda was already presenting. It was not the complete tool, but mostly the mapping that was tested in the Maldives. But yeah, there's been other countries as well: Bhutan, the Dominican Republic, Cameroon, Namibia, and South Africa. All have provided quite a lot of very important feedback, so that we could adjust the tool to make it more user-friendly. And then we've also carried out some training specifically on quality assessments. And I think there, if you have any questions, Isabella is the real expert. But we've been in quite a few African countries: in Kenya, Ethiopia, Mozambique, Mongolia, South Sudan, and I don't know if there are others, and a big group of SADC countries. And then we've also received very valuable feedback in the development process from my dear colleague Afsane and others at ESCAP, and then also colleagues at UNECA that have tried it out and shared their feedback with us. Yes, and that was all from me. I think the QR code that brings you to the page of the tool was included in one of the very first pages. And it's, on the collaborative homepage under tools, you have a whole section on quality assessment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Celia, for sharing the quality assessment toolkit. And it is really important because admin data is not usually produced, is not at all produced for statistical purposes. So there are always quality issues when we want to use them for statistical purposes. I also shared the links to the documents from the Statistical Commission that you mentioned in your presentation in the chat box. So if you want to have a look, colleagues, you can go there. Our next speaker is Miss Oyun Bilek Delger Sayhan from Mongolia, that she will share with us the practical experience of Mongolia using the toolkit that Celia just introduced. So over to you, Oyun Bilek.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can also see the slides.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Oyun Blake, and I am Director of Data Research and Analysis Division. I'm going to present that to implement the implementing activities of the NSO of Mongolia regarding to quality assurance framework and admin data quality in Mongolia. That is which is used in the adjusted data quality toolkit, which is that this working group has developed. And that first, I will present that initiatives that NSO Mongolia is undertaking to enhance that the quality of statistical and administrative data. And after that, I will present that about how we just adopt the toolkit. NSO of Mongolia, for just background information, I would like to give some slides I would like to talk about. And NSO of Mongolia works under the Parliament of Mongolia, so we are quite independent. When the government has changed, then we won't change. So we are quite independent. So we are working with that government agencies very substantial. So in the structure of NSO was reorganized in 2023. This establishing this change has established that the corporation and methodology division, which is responsible for ensuring statistical data quality, and also which is my division. Which is my division also this data quality issues we are considering about. So also in NSOS, we have our vision. In our vision, we also included that producing qualified data for generic public. It means just we need to consider, and we are very mainly we mainly consider data quality of statistics. You can see here. Also, we are working on updating the statistical law for past 3 years. In that revision of this law, one of the key revision of the statistical law focuses on that establishing quality assurance framework, which you can see. I didn't change my slides. Yeah. Okay, man. And also another key outcome regarding to the data quality, and we are adopted. This is adoption of the national 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 quality assurance framework that we developed and adopted in 2023, which we have updated in accordance with that UN National Quality Assurance 2019. And also, since 2013, we have developed and implementing that user and producer-oriented quality report for the official statistics, and also we have that 58 statistics user-oriented quality report we have developed since 2013, and we have even published in our official website that you can see in that slide. And another main work we have done that last 2 years, we are working on that assessing quality of primary survey and primary survey data using administrative data. We need to ensure that the data quality of primary data. So we have working on this main work in last 2 years. This work is enhanced to enhance the quality assessment of primary survey data using administrative data. We have developed that comprehensive mapping and linking framework according to this work. So also additionally, we have developed automated workflow for integrating and cleaning administrative data to create that integrated high quality databases. And also that we have developed according to this primary data assessment, primary data quality assessment, we have developed also dashboards to visualize and analyze the results of that data quality issues. Now I will talk about that administrative data assessment, which I have used at this working group toolkit. To utilize that administrative data in statistics, we aim to develop that in evaluation methodology to assess the data quality of administrative data. National Statistical Office of Mongolia plan to conduct that midterm population and housing census this year based on administrative data. So that during this development of data quality methodology, we decided that to evaluate the databases will be used for that midterm population and housing census. Is results of that we have reviewed the several documents and materials, which is materials and because we didn't have any experience checking that the data quality of admin data, so we discovered so many materials, and we found that this toolkit has developed by this working group. So we have used this toolkit for our administrative data assessment. So that this objective of this administrative data assessment, this effort to ensure that the accuracy of statistical data, and also we would like to support that formalization of that policy. And also we would like to build that public confidentiality, and also we would like to align with that international standards, and also maintain that data consistency. And we would like to, we just have found, and we have developed the 4 stages to assess that admin data quality. And for statistical data in the 4 stage. fourth stage, we already evaluated in 2 census results. For example, it is just a source stage, source assessment stage, which is we evaluated metadata quality of all admin data which we would like to use for population and housing census. Also, we are plan to conduct the establishment census next year. But from this year, we would like to develop integrated database using administrative data. This establishment census administrative data source quality source assessment stage we have done also this year, 2 months before. Then we have already wrote that report of this quality checking. Now we are improving that report. Then second stage we would assess that input data, which is that data quality check for each database that obtained from the responsible agencies. And also third stage is purchasing stage. We called this stage will be data quality checking for integrated database for census and survey that use it for the administrative databases. Also, we will assess that outputs of outcomes of that census and surveys. This stage will check that it will evaluate that based on how will they meet user needs and requirement and expectation of these users. So I will talk about that post stage about the assessment. The fourth stage we call the data source assessment, which is metadata quality. To achieve that our objectives of collaborating with the data responsible agencies and conducting an assessment of database metadata and other issues to improve quality of data sources in collaboration with the data responsible agencies. Based on these assessment results. And we have developed that one questionnaire which is including 63 questions. This is across 5 measurable dimensions was developed. We have used it for our assessment, metadata assessment. Here you can see that the 5 dimensions first is relevance and accuracy dimensions, which we included at 33 questions. And also secondly, consistency and comparability parts, which we included at 4 questions. And also timelines and functionality parts, dimensions, we have included 5 questions. And accessibility and clarity dimension, we include 18 questions. And also organization status parts, we have included 13 questions in our questionnaire for evaluating data source. Also, we have developed after collecting data from the DH agencies through that questionnaires which we have developed. Then after that, we are collecting and data. We have just scored all the results. For example, we have scored that each questions signed with a score from 0 to 4, and after that, we each each quality dimension was weighted accordingly. Here you can see that, for example, that relevance dimensions we give that 25 percentage of the weight. So that after that we will just develop this kind of formula, which is we will take results in total score in each agencies, and after that each dimensions we have got the results. Then we also give the interpretation for that, all the interpretation of total scores we have given. Then we evaluated that all the data sources from agencies. To develop these questionnaires and scoring, we have used that we have used the toolkit of this working group, and in this toolkit is 93 questions, and the questions was there. Then, for example, here you can see in the graph this preconditioned legal basis and confidentiality and data security, input data quality. These dimensions we have used in our questionnaire, and which you can see this in green one. Green one we have fully used in our questionnaire. That which is orange one is partially we have used it, and red one we haven't used it because it is not related to Mongolian situation. So from here you can see this almost half of this questionnaire we have used it to use it to our data source assessment stage.
Oyunbilek, could you wrap up, please, because your time is up. If you could wrap up quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't have
How many minutes do we have?
You already passed. You already passed. So the sooner the better.
Okay. Okay. I will talk about. Okay. Second, which I mentioned already, the second stage we would implement that input and data quality assessment, which we have already developed from the 17 agencies data quality we have done. And here you can see that input data quality assessment, what kind of dimensions we have used, you can see. And for example, here this harmonization and validation dimensions and accuracy and reliability and timelines and punctuality, linkability. These dimensions we have using for that input data quality. And here also we have already developed some formulas how we will develop this in this stage. And also we have developed that the resupply data errors, how we will check, and also this the measurement error, how we will check. These all stages we have developed, and also methodology we have included in our methodology part. And third stage we call this purchasing assessment stage. Here is previous stages that we would assess that each databases, but in this stage we would after we collect from the data from the different administrative sources, we will integrate and make it that our census and survey database, one integrated database. For integrated database, we need to also evaluate and assess quality. Then in this part, we will do that things. Here you can see the dimensions, how we will check, for example, that the record linkage and coverage linkage, resolving and data differences and editing and imputation. For this assessment, we will do in this stage. So here I will just want to show that how our that metadata assessment results was in our population and housing midterm census. I would like to show these 2-3 slides. Here is, for example, that from the 11 agencies we have collected data from that 17 databases we have collected, and we have evaluated in two stages we have done already. Here you can see this from most of them is 2.82, 3.5 score they have got. It means just that we can use that all the administrative databases which we collected. So here is dimensions by dimensions we have evaluated. And also here is that some results you can see here. So this is my presentation, which I wanna present.
Thank you so much, Ayun, and my apologies for rushing you, but we really don't have much time left. We will share your slides on the webpage, and colleagues, if you have any questions, they can reach out to you. And now we go to the last presentation on the data linking toolkit by Isabella again. So over to you, Isabella. It's uploading. Just give few seconds. All right.
Thank you, Asfane, and also thank you to all the preceding contributors. It was really interesting to hear these country experiences in Malaysia and Mongolia. And I think we can learn a lot from each other, and that's why the Stats Café is an excellent idea and really a good opportunity for peer-to-peer exchange. So I'm not going to give you a lot of detail on this linkage toolkit. And as I said, it just has to be placed on the web, but it's finalized. So I'm just quickly going towards the end of this PowerPoint so that we can get to that.
Let me help you with moving quicker.
Okay.
All right. So just let me take the control, and then I move to your presentation, and then we can. Oh, sorry, it's a little bit slow from my end.
So while Asfanes is doing this, we've received a lot of requests from our collaborative on administrative data members, but also from the national statistical offices in Africa and elsewhere for tools that can be used to link different kinds of data sets. And quite often the administrative data was in the center of this. But then questions, how do you link it with census data? How do you link it with survey data? So the data linking toolkit and training materials are there to actually just help guide those who are interested on how to do these linkages. What's really important, and I think all the preceding presentations alluded to this, is there's no point in linking data sets if we don't have quality data, if there are no data standards, if there are no metadata, if there are no exchange protocols, no frameworks to guide how interoperability will take place, and also that there are common data elements in these data sets that can be used for linking, as well as documentation about the data. So all these elements are also dimensions of quality. And our first starting point should really be making sure our legal framework is in place, making sure that we've mapped our administrative data systems, making sure that we've worked with the data holders to improve the quality. Then we can begin to start talking about linking. But this is absolutely the future. As you know, the data revolution requires already of us to produce our data much quicker than we previously had, and also make better use of all the data that we do have by linking, by cross-analyzing, etc. And so this toolkit is quite timely in that from that perspective. And we basically use two kinds of linking: statistical matching, where we combine data that don't necessarily correspond to the same individual or business or entity, but it refers to similar subsets or group of the population. So the statistical matching method is not really so much used in the National Statistical Office.
Sorry, Isabella, are you moving the slides? Because we don't see them moving.
So are you now on dataset linking?
Oh, no, we are not. We are on the first slide yet. So you need to take the control and yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Apologies for that. And then, of course, record linkage is really the identification and combination of records that correspond to the same entities. So in our toolkit, we show you how to do deterministic data linkage, how to do probabilistic record linkage. And the toolkit is very practical. It actually has R code that can be used to link the different data sets. And during the training, we have a sort of mock data that's being used for the generic training, but we try to use the data sets of a particular country for the training itself, so that whoever learns how to link are actually using their own real data for that purpose. And for example, the deterministic linkage is usually the one that's the easiest, but it's only easy if you have a unique identifier in your country that links the individuals in different data sets to each other. In many countries, many situations, we have to use probabilistic record linkage, and then we actually try to match based on a set of variables that can potentially be used to identify individuals, such as names, date of birth, etc., etc. So the toolkit explains a little bit more what the difference between these are, and actually give practical examples and code on how to do this. We also, as the Collaborative on Administrative Data, held an expert clinic on record linkage. There is a QR code that you can use if you want to listen to those previous webinars on this topic. But we also plan to do a lot more on this next year. So this is the end of all the tools that we wanted to showcase. And I'm now going to quickly hand over to Asfani to facilitate the question and answer session. Over to you, Asfani.
Thank you very much, Isabella and other colleagues for sharing the... Okay, sorry, I was trying to fix my camera. Thank you so much for sharing the information about the toolkit and also country experiences. Now it is time for Q&A and discussion. If colleagues, you have any questions for the speakers, please, you can raise your hands. I cannot see any questions in the chat box, so if you have questions, you can raise your hands and ask your questions. Okay, one from Nusratullah. Do you incorporate BI tools such as Power BI or Tableau into quality assessment process? So I think maybe this is for Celia. Which speaker do you want to answer? Because we also have Mongolia. All right, okay. We also have one question from Petra. How can we ensure these systems are fully inclusive of marginalized population? And also one from Asia. Okay, so maybe Celia, would you like to take the first question about the use of Power BI or Tableau in the quality?
Yeah, my answer is very quick. Thank you, Afsane. So we haven't, but I'd be curious to hear the Mongolian colleagues if they have included any of it.
All right, thank you so much. Oyunbilek?
Hi. Yeah, we have. I have shown that which is we have used that the Tableau tools for our that primary data assessment, but not that data quality assessment for that midterm population and housing census. But we have already developed that mapping. We can use it for that this census also.
Thank you very much. Would it be okay if we link you up, so if there are any questions, they can ask directly from you?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And for the question from Petra, I think that maybe Isabella, would you like to take that one? That how can we ensure these systems are inclusive of marginalized population?
Yes, thank you for the question, Petra. I think this is really important because usually administrative data actually does not include these populations, and that's one of the biggest weaknesses of the system. I think one needs to begin with advocacy, and one needs to ensure that government outreach, which collects administrative data on services by government, actually reach the marginalized, the poorest of the poor, and that will make the data systems more inclusive. However, I think that with this linking of the data from different sources, there's a lot of potential to merge administrative data, for example, with census data and determine exactly who are left out in the administrative data systems. So I think interoperability and data linkage will be the key for us to get a more comprehensive picture of those who are furthest left behind as we begin to use registers more for statistical purposes.
Yeah, thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Alison.
Thank you, Isabella. And Petra, if you have follow-up questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Or we also have one question from Asia asking about the mapping. So maybe Shahuda, mapping is continuous task. So how do you address the challenge of managing it over time? Shahuda?
Yeah, thank you. In our case, first we use the questionnaire from the collaborative, but then later again we used the other questionnaire for the register messages, and then we have sort of updated, but there are more additional aspects in the questionnaire as well. So you are right, we need to update because sometimes even the data holder changes, the institution change. So we found that some of the databases we had before in the economic development, the foreigners database were data transferred to another agency. So these things change, and also there are a lot of updates. So we need to improve this and monitor the changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Shahuda. And also the next question from Winita is about the main challenges faced during implementation of these tools at the country level. So maybe Shahuda and Ayum Bilek, if you could turn on your cameras, and maybe you can talk about some of the challenges you had to implement these tools, and what were your solutions. For example, Shahuda, you talked about the working with the agencies. What were some of the mechanisms you used for that, if you would like to share with the colleagues?
Thank you. In our case, we form a working group. So it needs to be targeted. First, it's area of statistics. Like if we are working with a migration, then we need to have all the agencies who are dealing with migration in a working team, and then together we like build our capacity, and then we sometimes meet online. Also now with the other agencies who are supporting, even international agencies like ESCAP, and then sometimes one-to-one meetings. It helps a lot also to clarify. So it's a big process, and then I think everybody's getting, that's what I highlighted, the getting the buy-in is very important. But still we are struggling a bit on the MOU side. Although at the technical level it is easy, but sometimes taking it to the policy level, and then getting the detailed micro data with the identifiers. So these types of challenges still are existing, and we are still working on to different approaches to see how we can resolve these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ayun Bilek, would you like also to share some of the challenges you had, and what were your solutions to address them?
Yep. Thank you. Which I already presented that half of the questions we have used that which you have developed. Then half of them we have used the other sources, other toolkits we have used. And also when we met with challenges that first, I think we will have to develop that list of the indicators which we would like to use from the administrative sources. Then after that, we will make questions from that agencies, because we met with that almost 11 agencies. We have organized meeting. Then we have asking questions, 60 questions we have asked that which we wanna during the visiting to that administrative agencies. We would like to see their structure of databases, and what kind of indicators and variables do they have, and which one we can use it. But I think that before we have that survey, we have started that survey, we have need to develop that question indicators and variables which we want to use that statistical purpose. Then after that, we have to ask that metadata in very detailed way. This is, I think, these things didn't include in this toolkit. And also another things that we need to include that how we will get that results. For example, we have developed score. Based on this score, which level that agencies reached, that we have shown them, yeah. For example, that most of agencies not considering about the data quality, because there's administrative data collected by the administrative purpose. Then they most of them is not considered about, not thinking about that quality of data, because it is the not statistical purpose. Then also in future we would like to develop the data quality, administrative data quality methodology, then which can be implemented in that administrative agencies. These things, I think,
Thank you.
challenges we have.
Thank you very much. And Sylvia, maybe would you also like to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that the countries may face when they want to implement the toolkit, the advocacy toolkit?
Okay, great. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I think some of the challenges that they may face may just be buy-in, garnering buy-in in terms of, first of all, an understanding of why administrative data is important, even before the actual implementation or use of the toolkit. But I think it's also to do with understanding advocacy concepts in general, which the toolkit has, of course, tried to break down in a way that's compliant even for communication or advocacy technical staff or professionals. But I think that would be one of the biggest things, really just trying to shift the needle from using administrative data kind of as a by the way, rather than having it in mainstream complementary data for statistical purposes. But hopefully the way the toolkit has been broken down will hopefully help with that, just to get that buy-in and to build that technical capacity. But I think one of the other challenges could be even socializing the toolkit, because this is something that needs to be done kind of as an ongoing process, not kind of a one-off. Of the toolkit has been produced, it's been shared, but it needs to constantly be brought to the fore of people's attention. I think that may help.
Thank you so much. And Isabella, over to you. Maybe you would like to talk about the whole thing.
Yes, I just want to thank ESCAP for inviting us to participate as the Collaborative on Administrative Data. I found the questions really interesting, and would like to encourage you to look at the PowerPoints where we have the links to all the tools, and reach out to your colleagues in the Asia-Pacific region who may have used these tools. And as the collaborative, we would love to get your feedback on how you find it when you do use the tools, and as well as request for additional kinds of resources that you need us to develop for you. So thanks, and I hope that the rest of your day progresses well.
Thank you so much. And I should thank all the speakers for their time and contribution. Actually, webinars by CAT, as Isabella already mentioned, they have had many webinars, but the timing of the webinars are usually late for us from the Asia Pacific. So I asked them if it is possible to somehow introduce these tools for the countries in our region, and they agreed. So I'm very much grateful for your time and contribution to all the colleagues, Isabella, Sylvia, and Celia, and also many thanks to my colleagues from Asia Pacific, Shahuda and Oyun Blake, for sharing the experiences. Colleagues, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We will link you with the speakers, and the presentations from this webinar will be shared on the Stats Cafe webpage. My colleague Ankana already shared the links for you in the chat box. And thank you so much, everyone, and hope to see you in the next Stats Cafe session soon. Bye.